I think a lot of the folks that do full arch as a standalone totally get that patient financing is a huge portion of this. But I think a lot of the GP practices, they hate patient financing. They kind of look at it as like, I'm losing money rather than looking at the opportunities that they're losing because of, they look at the fee that they're going to be charged rather than looking at the amount of money that's walking out the door.
General dentistry is a relationship-based business that you see recurring business that you see your patients roughly every 6 months. Full arch dentistry is a transactional business model. Okay, now you might see these patients every year, if you're lucky, or in my experience, every 2-3 years. You're just not going to see them very often.
So often they say, oh, none of these patients were interested. And it's like 300 patients reached out to you for full arch and this many came in and this many, and none of them were interested. They were just for funsies going to the dentist. Sounds kind of crazy to me. I don't know anybody. That's like a big list of psychopaths. Welcome back to another episode of the Full Arch Advantage podcast. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I'm the founder of SMC National, where we help you create, convert, and close more full arch cases so you can grow the way that you want. And today I have Dr. T-Bone, who's not only operated a practice that's absolutely blown up with full arch cases, but he's also teaching other doctors how to do the same. He's going to share his wisdom and knowledge and how he's grown his practices, and you're going to want to stay tuned for this. All right, we are live with the one, the only Dr. T-Bone, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you. And let's start here. What's the number one thing that you're seeing, either for yourself or for your clients, that's helping dentists do more full arches every month?
Yeah, for me, it's pretty simple. It's having a product menu that makes it affordable and upgradable for our patients.
So what does that mean? A product menu that's upgradable and affordable for our patients? Because first thing I think of is product menu. Don't ever hear dentists talk about that. Number two is it's easy for the patient to understand. It's not, right? Like they're walking through, the patients are so confused. And then number three, affordable. No one associates that with full arch. So can you walk through each of those?
Yeah. Wow. I'd love to talk about all of that. So the traditional model with full arch edentulous using implants has been the 2-implant overdenture, the 4-implant overdenture, and then you jump all the way to zirconia or bar wrapped or bar based fixed option. And typically, roughly speaking, that price point goes like $8,000 for the 2-implant overdenture, probably the 10 to 12 grand ballpark for the 4-implant overdenture, and then you jump all the way to about $25,000 to $30,000 for the full arch zirconia option. And that's too big of a gap between $12,000 and $25,000, $30,000. And what I mean by expanding your product menu is you need something in between, something that gets the patient through that big gap. Because basically, if I want fix and your only option is $25,000, and then the next step down is something I don't want and it's $12,000, I need something in between. So when we introduced a long-term PMA solution to our patient and we priced that in the $18,000 ballpark, we saw a significant uptick in the number of arches we were doing because suddenly we had something that didn't seem so economically overwhelming to our patient. Now, when it comes to affordability is partly price, which again, you got to cover the gap. And then partly also it's using patient financing options because most people in the United States of America, or probably anywhere around the world, can't jump out and give you $25,000, $30,000 all in one slot, all in one shot. So you have to have some way to make it affordable for them to pay for it.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. And I think a lot of the folks that do full arch as a standalone totally get that patient financing is a huge portion of this. But I think a lot of the GP practices, they hate patient financing. They kind of look at it as like just for their GP patients. They just don't like it because they look at it as I'm losing money rather than looking at the opportunities that they're losing because of Hey, got an important announcement for you. We are hosting the second annual Full Arch Advantage event where you learn to create, convert, and close more full arches so your office can grow the way that you want. This is going to be in partnership with BioHorizons, and this is our second year, but the important part is it's going to be virtual, so you don't have to fly out, buy hotels, travel with your team. You can just register and block off the days and watch virtually. And right now we have early bird pricing. It's never going to be cheaper than right now. I don't even have a discount code because it's so cheap. It's only $199 right now to register. And it's for your team. It's for your dentists. It's for your treatment coordinators, your dental assistants, and your marketing managers. And you're going to learn a ton of stuff to grow. Last year's event had a 74 NPS score, which is amazing. And the feedback was really, really good. So if you're looking at leveling up, we have a ton of new content, a ton of new automations and things that you can add to your practice to really grow, and executing on the phones to make sure that you can grow the way that you want. So don't miss this. Go to Full Arch Advantage right now and sign up. This price will not be around for long. They look at the fee that they're going to be charged rather than looking at the amount of money that's walking out the door because they didn't present any options. And so with Full Arch, you just don't have that luxury. Like you can't get away with that. So you have to walk in with a lot of financial options and being able to work with those people on that front. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, Full Arch is like selling cars. What would happen to the car market if we didn't have to offer financing? It would dry up. And more importantly, again, just to help us understand, if you're listening to this podcast and you leased your car, you're a financer. Leasing exists because it allows you to get into a more expensive car at a lower price point than traditional financing. I mean, look, we can't be so egotistical and so out of touch that we live our life one way and then run our business, our practice in a totally opposite way. It's excuse my language, it's asinine to continue to do that. Now, if you want to live in the general dentistry world, which is a great world, will make a great living for you, and you can keep doing things the way you're doing it. But when you move beyond insurance-based dentistry, when you move into full arch or complex implant dentistry, all of those things have got to go out the window. You almost have to run it, and this is the way we do it, is we run it as two separate practices inside a single building.
Yeah, and it's really the reason that you have to do that, and a lot of people don't, I realize that, but they get themselves in trouble, is because it's two separate business models. And most dentists do not know that they're walking into a separate business model. And I would love your thoughts on this because you're a dentist, you work with dentists, but here's the way I see it from the outside looking in is that GP is a recurring business model. You're trying to get these patients every 6 months to come back. And over time, you're going to get all the work that they need done, right? Like you're just over time, 100 here, 1,000 there, 700 here. You're going to get referrals from them. While Full Arch is a sales business model. It's not a recurring business model. You're not trying to get that patient to necessarily come back every 6 months per se. Your main goal is to eliminate all their dental problems all at once and for all. But the problem with that is that here's the difference. In GP, it's just like live and survive and advance, right? Just get them back to that next hygiene appointment. And eventually everything's going to work out. With Full Arch, if you don't get a yes, it's a no. Period. And you don't get a second chance at it. They're doing it down the street with someone else, and you'll never get that opportunity again. And you're only as good. You don't have that recurring revenue coming in from that side of the business because you're only as good as your last sales month. That's it. You start at zero every single month on a sales driven model, not the recurring business model. How do you see it? How do you look at it? And how do you kind of help people with that?
Very, very similar to what you're saying with some minor twists, and I know we agree on this. We're just, I just want to clarify things. Number one, general dentistry is a relationship-based business that you see recurring business that you see your patients roughly every 6 months. Full Arch dentistry is a transactional business model. Okay, now you might see these patients every year, if you're lucky. In my experience, every 2-3 years. You're just not going to see them very often. What I do want to emphasize to everybody, and what is so important in this, is that we treat people with dignity and respect, we give them hope, and that we also have to understand the sales cycle. That's the time from the patient comes in to the time that they say yes, is not like general dentistry. General dentistry, the sales cycle is, do you buy today because it's a few $100 or $1,000, you buy within a week or two. On this type of dentistry, the sales cycle is not unusual for it to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months as patients are wrapping their head around what's about to happen to them or what needs to happen to them, as they're wrapping their head around how do I afford this? Where do I scrape together the money from? And then also, when is the best time in my life to go through this endeavor? And these are the things that we take for granted as true general dentists that are lifting ourselves up into Full Arch is, if I get a crown, I'm out of work for a few hours, I go back to work. I get a Full Arch procedure done, man, I'm out of work for a couple of 3 days likely. And so people have to plan around that. And they have to be prepared for that. So it is a transactional model in that you're very likely that the vast majority of patients you're probably not going to see again. After all, that's why they're in this situation. Majority of them are in this situation. But then we also have to have a different sales model and a sales cycle associated with. So back to my concept that we run it as a separate practice. I have separate team members who are dedicated to full arch, from the intake process to the consultation process to the follow-up process, and then to the clinical process. And notice, I used 4 different things there, and one of those was clinical. Okay, and the other 3 were directly related to the dirty word in dentistry, and that is sales. And sales doesn't mean we're closing people and convincing them to do things. Sales to me means we're meeting people where they're at, we're understanding what problem they have, and we understand what solution helps solve their problem. And then we can make a recommendation to them. I don't start with every patient needs fixed full arch, because that may not be the right solution for them. But that's where I want everybody to end up, but that's not where everybody needs to end up. And those listening skills, those understanding skills, that follow-up process is the most important part of this, that most dentists and most practices that are what I call dabbling in full arch or getting into full arch and struggling with full arch, that's the part of the process that they really are missing, is the importance of
I totally
follow-up.
agree. So often they say, oh, none of these patients were interested. And it's like, 300 patients reached out to you for full arch, and this many came in, and this many, and none of them were interested. They were just for funsies going to the dentist. Sounds kind of crazy to me. I don't know anybody that's like a big list of psychopaths, but I realize that it's really hard to figure out where these people are in the funnel. And this is one of the another big differences about full arch to GP, is that full arch is a long buying cycle, where GP is a short buying cycle. So example, short buying cycle is like pizza. You never order pizza a month in advance, ever. You order it the day that you need it. And we all know that. And that's the way that it works. Plumbers are short buying cycles too. You don't usually, unless you're like building a house or something, but when you need a plumber, you need a plumber. And I need a plumber now. I don't want to wait 3 months. I need a plumber today, tomorrow. That's how general dentistry is. If I fall and chip my tooth right now, I'm going to the dentist today or tomorrow. No, I'm not. There's not this long, like, oh, do I have the money for it? And
there's nothing you need to think about.
No, there's nothing. And the buying cycle of GP patients, from the time they search to the time they get their treatment done, they expect the whole thing to be about a week. That's the full life cycle, from the time they learn about you till they walk out your door with that treatment. That's their goal. Where full arch buying cycles are 6 months, a year, 2 years, sometimes even longer. And so these people are on Google searching, talking to multiple offices. Now, thankfully, for most offices and for a lot of the people we work with, the competition sucks at this. Like, they are horrible. They call in, the patients say, hey, how much is it for an arch? Oh, we're not allowed to give a price. Oh, we're not allowed to talk about it. Oh, we can't do this. They don't know how to build value. They don't know how to qualify the patient in a nice way that makes them feel welcoming. Same thing when they come into the office. And what ends up happening is these offices are like, oh, these weren't good patients. They don't realize that those patients are going down the road somewhere else, maybe 2 months, 3 months, 4 months later. And the confusing part is that there's top of funnel patients, which means they're not buying today. They're buying in a year or two from now.
They're kicking the tires.
They are kicking tires, and the doctors realize it, but they don't realize that it is just a matter of time until they buy from them. Then there's middle funnel, and then there's bottom funnel, where people are buying this week. And then how do you decipher between those? Do you kind of see the long versus short buying cycle, or how do you think through that?
Yeah, for my experience has been the shortest buying cycle have been customers or patients that have come from other offices already. In other words, I've gone to XYZ corporate office, I've gone to XYZ local office, and they've been educated. Now they're just, honestly, they're looking for somebody they can trust. And the truth is I know most of the dentists that do full arch in my market, and they're all very, very competent and trustable dentists. But the difference is they haven't made it an easy buying process. And I think that is so important. It's so important in full arch world. Now, I think the real money is in the middle of the funnel. People that are they just need a little bit of prodding to get there. And that's not convincing. Okay. That is holding my hand, letting me know it's okay, that these are the options, these are the choices. When you're ready, we're ready. Like, you're not alone, that you can't afford this. Like, I use those statements with my patients. I say, look, man, 99% of my patients can't write me a check for this. I get it. Okay, you're not alone. And it's amazing that just the way they just kind of relax and they're like, oh, somebody finally gets me. Instead of trying to build this, I'm the best, or I do this, or I have this trademark, patients don't care. Look, do you connect with them? Do you treat them with dignity and respect? Do you make it easy for them to buy? And then do you do good work?
Yeah.
And that's really it. And what's amazing to me is from direct to consumer marketing, trust is kind of the given on that. They assume that you're trustable because you're spending the money marketing and you're found on the Google or the YouTube or whatever it is. It's all the other things. And look, we're all running the same ads. We're all doing the same things. It's people. People are your number one product. How you treat people, how you treat your customers is direct reflection on your case acceptance.
What most people don't realize is that these patients are scared to death because we're in it all day, right? Yeah. We see thousands. I see tens of thousands of leads every single week, right? That we're managing. We see hundreds and thousands of dollars every single day in full arch treatment being accepted. These offices are seeing tons of patients, right? So for us, it's like, oh yeah, just another day in the office. But the patients are coming in scared. And I'll give an example. Imagine if you got a doctor, because we got a lot of doctors listening. Imagine, doc, that you're sitting there and you get a call from your doctor and they go, hey, we just got those lab work back in and I need you to come in and talk to me. And tied to it is going to be a $50,000 problem attached to it. Right? It's not going to be covered by your insurance. It's going to cost you $20,000 to $50,000. And you kind of know that already. When we go into that situation, we are scared. We are scared. We have a lot of questions. God forbid we start Googling it, right? And trying to figure it out ourselves. And that's what these patients are doing, right? If you go on Google and you start looking up what my problem is, all of a sudden your brain starts running crazy.
Yeah, you might see some of my videos. It scared the crap out of patients.
Yes, exactly. And so they're walking in scared. And then a lot of times our team is not empathetic towards them. I've seen this over and over and over again. I'm like, this is a person who's scared to death, who doesn't understand what they're walking into. And just by slowing down and having real life conversations with people makes all the difference in the world. I'm totally with you. Like if you do that, you will win eventually.
Well, you say that, Gary, and I want to make this point because it's important. One of the things that I really believe in and teach is that we need to be proactively offensive with on the offense with our patients, not offensive. We need to be proactively on the offense with our patients. And what I've found in experience, and at this point I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of arches and 25 years of doing complex care dentistry, is that when it comes to full arch, the number one thing that patients have in their mind is, will I go without teeth? Number one thing. Number two thing they have is, I heard this is painful, and the reason my teeth are in the shape they're in is because I don't like going to the dentist because it induces anxiety. And the number three thing that I've heard is, that I hear from patients, is it costs a lot of money. So to me, I don't wait for the patients to bring those things up to me. I, in fact, go on the proactive and I bring it up. Listen, I know that you're probably just worried about how much this is going to hurt or not hurt. And I want to let you know that we sedate all of our patients. Okay. Hey, I know that one of the most common things I hear from patients is, do I ever go without teeth? And here's the great news. We have a lab here in our office that custom makes your teeth the day of surgery. So you walk out here without teeth and you never go without teeth. And I know that this is an expensive procedure and 99% of my patients can't write a check for you. And I want you to know we have amazing ways to help fit this into your budget and different options that can fit where you want to be and what makes the most sense for you right now. And when you can go on the proactive or the offense and get those things out of the way as early as appropriately in the conversation, the more your patients actually listen to you and not thinking about those things in the back of their head.
I absolutely love that. Yeah, we have an LMS and a coaching platform that closes around like training on sales and on the lead nurturing and all those kind of things. And the number one thing that I've picked up from just listening to these experts teach offices on doing this is there's only so many objections that patients have on full arch. There's only a couple. There's not like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. There's a couple. And if you can deal with those early and often and have them overcome those through just easy solutions, then you don't get the no at the end. If you don't overcome those, because everybody has them in the back of their head, or almost everybody, and then you get to the end and they're like, no, I got to think about it. You did a bad job all the way through the process. You didn't. And then you're like, well, wait. And you're trying to save it. Now that's when it feels salesy. And that's when doctors are like, oh, I feel so cringy what we're doing. It's because you didn't actually overcome the objections all the way through the process. I love that. You're spot on.
If I was to give a dentist advice, and AI does a lot of this now, is if when you're doing consultation, if it's not a 70-30 split, it's 70% the patient talking and asking questions and 30% the dentist responding, then you're talking too much.
That's really good. Yeah, I love that. That's really, really good stuff. Well, as always, I really appreciate you coming on. I know you have some events coming up and stuff like that. Can we plug any of those for you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, listen, if you're interested in Full Arch, this is a Full Arch podcast. I got two things that I can offer you, okay? Number one is if you're new to Full Arch and ready to get into Full Arch, that's what you dreamed of, like I did 10, 12 years ago. I was like, I want to do this. My ego wants to do it. I want to get there. We've got a Full Arch Express week where we teach you how to treat full arch edentulosum through removable implants and through fixed implantology. You do it with 2 to 3 days of didactic training and 2 days of live surgery where you'll do surgeries on patients we provide you right here in the United States of America in North Carolina, and you'll do it using a digital workflow. If you're the dentist that's already doing full arch, you got that part surgery down, and you're like, you know what? I've tasted the deal, and I want more of it. I want to go to 4, 5, 6 arches a month. Then we've got a great Scale Your Full Arch business program that teaches you everything in terms of the lead nurturing, the consultation process, the follow-up process, and the clinical process to be more efficient, and the technology part of the clinical process so that you can be more efficient, you can be more profitable, and you can help more patients. Because I believe technology serves this purpose. The purpose of technology is to drive down cost to the patient so more patients can afford treatment, and drive up profit to the practice so more practices make more money. And they don't have to be independent of each other. And technology should be doing that. And I know from firsthand experience in the full arch world, it does do that.
It's so awesome. Thanks for that. And then how do people get in touch with you? If someone just goes, I got questions, what's the best way to connect with you?
The best way is to visit www.3d-dentists.com or reach out to me directly on all the social media channels at T-Bone Speaks, TBONESPEAKS. T-Bone Speaks, and that's me looking at all that stuff. So I'll reach out to you. If you're like some instrument manufacturer somewhere, please don't reach out to me on instruments. I can't believe every time I do a podcast,
they didn't make it to the end. Those guys don't make it to the end of the podcast. They don't care about this. So you know where the only people listening right now are like doctors who are like geeking out on this, like to the 10th degree.
They're in it to win it, man.
100%.
They're in it to win
it. Yeah, it's hidden. Your information's hidden inside of a bunch of gold nuggets. So you're good. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you as always. Appreciate the energy and just everything you're doing. I know you're working really hard to level up the industry and open up a lot of the black boxes that are out there. So it's fun and just great to connect with you.
Absolutely, Gary. Anytime.